For today, what we're going to do basically is we're going to go through the marking of a solo piece. We're going to go through the marking of an ensemble piece. Then we're going to look at standardizing the rudiments of the drum, because that has always been a shady area.
What I tend to do is tell my students to write about the genre first and how it's placed in Barbadian society. Let's say you're doing gospel fest, whatever, that kind of thing, and then write about the song specifically. So 2 paragraphs is what you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody, I think that is a pretty good thing. Marlon? Bernard?
No, I was just having a discussion with Marlon yesterday already about the social cultural significance. What I usually do, I prepare 4 questions that I tell the children to answer. If the song that you are analyzing was a target audience in terms of ethnicity. The next one is social standing. The next one would be age. And then the last one is if it is successful in reaching those persons, in their opinion. No, age range of the auditory audience, yeah.
Without further ado, what we're going to do is turn over now to the main presenter for today, Dave Jackman, and he will go through his agenda, the marking of the practicals, the solo, and the ensemble. And I don't know if I told you that you were going to do the rudiments as well, the scale. So you can do that. And I think the piece that we're doing is Lamont Fernandez has already been distributed. So over to you, Mr. Dave. I'm sorry we don't have a lapel and thing, you know, but.
Good morning, colleagues. All right, so today, as was mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking about applying the rubrics in the practical segment. All right, so we're going to start first with the SBA practical, and before we actually mark, I want to talk also about the rubrics that have been mentioned in the syllabus, so I'm going to refer to those. Then we're going to talk about the practical exam and some standards. We'll talk about standards, and apart that, we'll touch on very briefly the composition rubric. Very briefly. So, to be practical. There are 3 main requirements for this part. You have to play 1 solo piece. Then you are expected to play the scale and the arpeggio in the key of that solo piece, or rudiments, or a technical exercise. I have vocal there, but I was understood that a technical exercise is also accepted. Then you have 1 ensemble piece. If I'm going too fast for anybody, please stop and shout me out. All right, so we are expected to mark holistically because we are going to hear a piece holistically. But remember, when you are putting marks into each of these areas, you are dissecting the piece. So in the top part, you're just thinking about rhythm and pitch. In the second area, you're talking about tempo, dynamics, and phrasing and articulation. Then we're talking about technique and tone quality, and then about style and interpretation of that style. So you have to break those parts down in there. So I know that in previous times, and sometimes we keep having to remind ourselves that in the rhythm and pitch, we're not really going to be marking interpretation there because there's a band specifically for that at the bottom. So if the pitches are correct, if the rhythms are correct, then there's no reason why you should be down in fairly good, moderate, limited, very limited, even good. Leave the interpretation issues for the 4th band. When we get to the scale and the arpeggio or rudiments or technical exercise, then you kind of mark 2 ways. Well, I tend to mark 2 ways. 1, I will mark out of 5 for the scale for both a drop. I will tend to mark out of 5 for the scale in terms of the accuracy of rhythm and pitch and the technique and the fluency. Then I will mark out of 5 again for the arpeggio and then find the average. That gives me a truer figure at the end of the day. When we come down to the ensemble piece, it is marked similarly to that of the solo piece. So you keep remembering. However, there is one thing that is different, and that is coordination and sensitivity to cues in this third band. So the person that is being examined does not have to be the main person. Like, they don't have to be the melodic line, as long as they are playing an independent role. Everybody with me? As long as you're playing an independent role, you do not have to be thinking words in there. I think there was even one person who conducted while playing and so forth. So once they're being examined, whichever part they're playing, they could be playing a harmony part, they could be playing a melodic part, does not matter as long as it's independent of everybody else. But then, what does outstanding mean? When we say good, what does good mean according to the syllabus? What does fairly good mean according to the syllabus? Well, if you are outstanding based on the rubric that we just, the mark schemes that we just looked at, that means that if you're outstanding, you are having a high level of accuracy of rhythm. Everything is high level of musicality and interpreting, tempo, dynamics, and phrasing, highly effective technique and tone quality, and a high level of understanding of the style of the piece. If you are good, we apply good to each of those. Fairly good, they say that it displays a reasonable level of accuracy in rhythm and pitch. Everything is reasonable there. Then we come down to moderate, an adequate level. When we talk about limited, there are several inaccuracies in the rhythm and pitch. You have a limited level of musicality in interpreting tempo and dynamics and phrasing, and then a limited level of technique and poor tone quality, and a limited level of understanding the style of the piece. And when you're very limited, well, you get the point. As it relates to the scale and the arpeggios, 5 marks if you are very fluent and accurate. If you're good, you are accurate, but you could have been a little bit more fluent. So the notes are correct, but it's not as fluent as it ought to be. If you're competent, you're mostly accurate, but you lack some fluency. If you are moderate, there are some inaccuracies, but you also lack fluency. If you're limited, too many inaccuracies. And very limited means that you did not deliver anything. In other words, if the child has presented something, still got mark it, still has to have more than 0. If they decided not to do anything, then that's where the 0 becomes legit. The ensemble is the same thing as the solo piece, but you have now to be specific to the person who is playing within a group. All right. So without further ado, shall we experiment? Now, the first person up would be Tyrese Hall. I'm going to use the mark sheet that you have there. It is the paper 3. School-based assessment performing profile 2. The candidate's name for this solo piece is Tyrese Hall. Tyrese Hall. I guess you figure what instrument that is. What level, Brunel, what level is he? Okay. All right, well, you determine the level. Based on the music that's in front of you, determine the level. Notice I did not say based on how he plays. Based on the music in front of you, determine the level. The piece is La Montfermeil. Take a couple seconds to apply a mark. At this point, we want to mark the scale and the arpeggio. We discuss our findings of the solo piece and the scale and arpeggio before we move on. So, for the solo piece, can we get a couple scores, please? Who's willing to share? What score did you get? David, Edley. Give the total. Give the total. You want the individual? 11, 9, 8, and 7. I don't know what's that total, but 28, 35? All right. Okay. Can I get some? So when you divide that by 2, you tell that last like math, right? Okay. Another thought? Marlon. 12, 9, 8, 8. The total. Somebody volunteer mark. Get the individual marks. 10, 9, 7, 7. Total is 33. Okay. Wait. He's writing. Totals 34. Can I get 2 more thoughts? 2 more. Oh, that's 19. I don't know your name, sorry. Raj. No. Rahish. All right. Okay, got you.
12,988.
12,988. It's Kumar? Kumar, right. What's the total? 18.5. Okay. Now, Philip said he gave him all 12, 9. What's up?
12, 10.
12, 10, 8, 8. So what are the averages there, basically? 17.5 to 18.5. Okay, good. So essentially, we have all put this person in the outstanding band. We've all said then that they have displayed a high level of accuracy despite the variances in figures. Between 17 to 19 as your total suggests that you think the person did this. The person displayed a high level of accuracy and rhythm and pitch. They displayed a high level of musicality and interpreting tempo, dynamics, and phrasing, tone quality, technique, and then the style of the piece. Are we all in agreement with that? That the person ended up in the outstanding band there? Okay, cool. As it relates to the scale and the arpeggio now, can we have some thoughts on that, please? Good. I want many thoughts. Darren ready? Oh. Wait. 4 and 4, which is right, which is 4. Yeah, we said A minor. No, they don't necessarily have to state the quality because we'll be able to tell if it's harmonic, if it is melodic, if it's natural. So you will mark accordingly. Pardon? Right, so you will mark accordingly.
Oh, okay. If it was a melodic minor scale, he would have lost more marks. So he would have gained more marks if it was a melodic minor scale. If it was a harmonic minor, he would have lost more marks. So I start hearing it as harmonic, then it changed and it transformed into something else.
Right. So because he went up sounding more harmonic, he still would have lost marks because that's not melodic.
No. I'm not trying to be. No, I just trying to understand. I'm not trying to be punitive. I just trying to understand. I don't know what he played, so I know I want to give the child as much marks as possible, but I don't know which scale he was supposed to play. That's why I asked the question: is it the norm? Since I'm new here, hi, my name is Darren. Which I'm new here. I just want to know what's the norm of things being done.
Process. The thought process there is a losing marks. And that's something I wanna highlight all the time, that we have in our psyche to penalize as opposed to award. It's just a shift. It's the same thing, right? But it's just a shift in thinking that we really must start stamping out here when it comes to education.
Right. Thank you very much, Purnell.
No problem. Let us get a couple marks. We already got 2 4s. Yes, Marcella. 3 and 3. 3 and 3. Purnell. 3 and 3. Marcella.
I give 3 and 3 too.
3 and 3, Darren. Which is also 3. Roger has 4 and 3. 3 and 3, Kieran. David, 4 and 4. Paul, 3 and 4. 3 and 4, Justin. 4, somebody else I didn't hear. Wait, that's Joel. Joel, 4 and 4. This is your average of both the scale and the arpeggio, or just the scale? Both. Okay. All right. So what are the averages there, please? So that's between 3 and 3.5. 3.5. Okay. All right. So essentially, we're between competent and good. Mostly accurate, but lacked a little bit of fluency, or accurate, but could be more fluent. Are we all in agreement with that? Yes? Okay, cool. All right. So I would have been in the 3s area as well. For me, I would have been in the 3s area. All right. Let us look at the ensemble.
I just have a personal query for the piece. Okay, so in terms of the interpretation, for the record, the young man played. I like. It was really good. I enjoyed it. My query is, me marking my student or depending thing. There are no say slurs or anything written in. Stylistically, it could be correct, but at the same time, it could be argued by somebody else that he put in something that is not there or thing. So my query is, how do you look at that as someone marking and so on?
When you say something that's not there, what do you mean? Like an articulation that's not there?
Well, there are no slurs
So you
written.
mean that if he was the
I can
slur-
argue, I can accept that
Mhm.
for the period of music that you may do some things with the melody.
Mhm.
All right. So from that perspective, I was really impressed and pleased with what was played. My query is not here. There are no slurs.
Mhm.
There are those things. So I was just wondering, how do I approach that really? Because there will be some persons be like, oh, there's not there, so you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
So I just
All right, burn this line.
All right. That has been a query for a long time, but that query was cleared up in I think 1700 and something when Quantz wrote a book called On Playing the Flute. And if you check that book, which is supposed to be the Bible of Baroque playing, it suggests that there are certain things that are taken for granted. There were never slurs written in the Baroque period, but the articulation was tie up, tap, tap, tie up, tap, tap. That was the expected articulation. And also when you had like two quavers and things like that, I think it was stated for this one that they would be straight, but it would be treated as a double dotted quaver followed by demi-semi-quaver with the double dot, the second dot being a silence of articulation. Tam, ta-tam, ta-tam. And that's why the marches like Aida and Scipio, pam, pa-da, pa. That silence of articulation was always interpreted in the Baroque period. So it is a matter of us now being able to interpret based on our knowledge of the music history and put that in, knowing that it wouldn't be there. For instance, when we play jazz and we see two quavers, unless otherwise written, the quavers are swung. Unless otherwise written. Okay? So that is to go with the genre and the period. So you would not find slurs in this, but it would la da pa 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 pam pam tam tayam ta pa pa pa. That would be the articulation that is supposed to be there. Okay? As a teacher, we should know a lot of these things. Yeah.
If a student does not play it like that, then
No, this is where the guidance of the teacher, because remember, the student is not preparing this piece on his or her own. The student is preparing these pieces under the guidance of a teacher, and the teacher should really be knowledgeable enough to guide them into the correct practice. All right? So, and it's something, as a statement I made yesterday, we are all proficient in a number of areas. But however, at some points in time, we become a little deficient. And we always have to seek to plug the gaps in our deficiencies. Right? There's a whole world out there doing this music. It's been done for hundreds of years, and we're going to catch up. Yeah? Yeah, from the point of the examiner. Uh-huh.
No. I was just saying, and for the point of the examiner, you would want you would hope that the examiner would know this, because like it's not written, and I would have been unclear on that.
All right, you see, that is why we've gone to once upon a time, 3 people used to go and mark the exam. Now the moderator goes with two others. And the moderators, like I said yesterday, we try to be in sync with all of these things. We try as far as possible.
I have a question about the scale. The syllabus does not say a scale ascending and descending. If we have a student that plays it correctly ascending, how do we mark that individual?
The
But likewise, if you're a piano player, pianist, whatever, and you play C major with your right hand, how do we mark that? Do we
I can tell you
accept
what I
that, or
have
do we
done.
have a
I
standard?
can tell you what I have done. Generally, they say to benchmark against the ABRSM and Trinity, right? And I know that in the ABRSM and Trinity, they say that it can be both hands or hands separately. So what I have done is that, no, even at the intermediate level and above, it has, yeah, you can play separately. If they ask you to play separately, you can do that. I've actually seen the examiner ask a person doing grade 4 and grade 5. I was outside listening, right? And I heard the man say, play, I can't remember what scale it is, right hand. Well, they had to be right because I hear everything going up and right? And I hear one hand. And then he went back and asked both hands in another scale. So what I have done is that sometimes when somebody plays one hand, I say, okay, well, you could try it both hands. Do you know it both hands? If you can't, I let you try it left hand. I'm not going to be so something. You can't play both hands. Well, then, you shot. I don't do that, right? But we try to see if you know it both hands. If you can, then play thing. In the exam, we are not there to be harsh with anybody. We're not. We help you through the whole process. All right. So, like Pernell spoke about not being punitive as teachers. Similarly, we are not punitive as examiners. We are not. Because we allow you, if it is that you played that you made a mistake, but we can tell that you kind of got the nerves or whatever, we let you play the thing over. If it is that you are struggling at some point in time, sometimes you say, look, start from this particular area and then continue along. Right? So we do that. So if it is that you only play the skill going up, we can try to figure out if you know the skill coming back down. Because we could tell too if you know the stuff and just nervous, or if you just didn't know the stuff, right? We figured that out. Yes, please.
Right, good morning, everybody. All right, my question is pertaining to the whole thing about standardization. And I'm speaking on the side of a player, not as a saxophone for those persons who would play a little bit, whatever. So how you spoke about standard with Trinity and Royal Schools, and I'm glad that it was mentioned about the one hand. So let me say a player come now, will play with one hand now. And there are persons that may not be all faith upon and the techniques and strategies, whatever, as it relates to players, they should also be faith that one hand is not also accepted. And how or what is the reference do we have for a person that may be doing the same CXC as a soloist in pan or ensemble? What do you guys have in place, or what references do you have for persons who are not au fait with the instrument?
Well, one of the things is that if there is an examiner that is not as au fait with the instrument, that's why we have 3. Because you are also hoping that the other 2 will have some sort of working knowledge that will be able to assist you. That is just one of the benefits of having 3. It's not as it's intimidating for the student, but it is also helpful to the student at the end. All right.
Prior to this year, there was no communication to me about having to do a technical study on voice rather than a skill. So before we were doing skills. So I would like also the same attention that's being paid to the drum, now to the steel pan, to be paid attention to vocals, because a lot of people do vocals.
Thank you for that. That's actually in my presentation today, the voice, where I attempt to share some resources that you can get the technical exercises from. All right. So I will touch on that a little bit later today. All right. So we have an ensemble, and this time, the featured person is the drummer. The featured person is the drummer. You wanna talk before this? Okay. Got it. All right, and the piece that they're going to be doing as the ensemble, I want you to, so you're thinking about the ensemble, but you're focusing on Drummer Boy. And his name is Jeremiah? I can't remember. Jeremiah? Good. Jeremiah. Thank you. Oh, the name of the piece is Never Fear My Enemies.
One thing I learned in life is to never fear. Don't care what them do, I don't fear. They could never get ahead of me. One thing I learned in life is to never fear my enemies. I walk in a certain light, so be careful if you step to me. Fear God, don't fear man. Take me, make a higher plan. Aim high like the stars done. Focus on top execution. When things are evil, I just keep it peaceful. Cause I know them things in my equal. I don't worry about the thing that no people. I learned in life is to never fear my enemies. Fear what them do, I don't fear. They could never get ahead of me. One thing I learned in life is to never fear my enemies. I walk in a certain light, so be careful if you step to me. Some of them just feelings of friends. That's a game is no problem. They're going to your work, you with them, made a lesson of your plans all in the back end. But I just read my scripture. Well, I'm ready, like I did in the picture. All the obstacles that come with the trip. Before you get past it, I'm going to be stronger. I learned in life is to never fear my enemies. Fear what them do, I don't fear, they could never get ahead of me. I learned in life is to never fear my enemies. I walk in a certain light, so be careful if you step to me. I am protected by the Almighty, never neglected, He always guides me. I am protected by the Almighty, never neglected, He always guides me. I learned in life is to never fear my enemies. Fear what them do, I don't fear, they can never get ahead of me. One thing I learned in life is to never fear my enemies. I walk in a certain light, so be careful if you step to me.
There was one thing that was brought to my attention, and rightfully so. Sometimes you may have three persons that are doing the same ensemble piece. Now, we have always thought it to be a time waster if you have the same band come back and play the same piece three times. So we sometimes sit down and listen to all three, and each person will have their own mark sheet, so you're taken into account. And I want you to do the same thing. So we're going to have three people here being featured now. So we have drummer boy, as I said before, vocalist, and bassist. Think about all three of them. Hallelujah. Same song again, because we are not being punitive. So because of the technical difficulty, they got to go again. Oh, no. You're marking all three because all three of them are candidates, but they're all playing the song Never Fear My Enemies.
I learn in life is to never fear my enemies. Don't fear what them do, I don't fear they could never get ahead of me. One thing I learned in life is to never fear my enemies. I walk in a certain light, so be careful if you step to me. Dear God, don't fear man. Think me, make a higher plan. Aim high like the stars done. Focus on for persecution. When things looking evil, I just keep it peaceful. Cause I know them things are my equal. I don't worry about passing out the people. One thing I learned in life is to never fear my enemies. Don't fear what's in town, I don't fear they could never get ahead of me. One thing I learned in life is to never fear my enemies. I walk in a certain light, so be careful if you step to me. Some of them just call them a friend. That's and game is the problem. They're gonna you're working with them, they're messing up your plans all in the back end. But I just read my scripture. Well, I'm ready and look at the bigger picture. All the obstacles that come with the trap, yeah. Never get past and come out even stronger. One thing I learned in life is to never fear my enemies. Don't fear what them do, I don't fear they could never get ahead of me. One thing I learned in life is to never fear my enemies. I walk in a certain light, so be careful if you step to me. I am protected by the Almighty, never neglected. He always guides me. I am protected by the Almighty, never neglected. He always guides me. One thing I learned in life is to never fear my enemies. Don't fear what them do, I don't fear they could never get ahead of me. One thing I learned in life is to never fear my enemies. I walk in a certain light, so be careful if you step to me.
We'll take some marks for the drummer first. Just give you a few more seconds. This is Paul 8455. This is drummer, right? Okay, just drummer for now. (8545) Joel. Can I get two more thoughts? David. 8645. One more thought. Yeah, Omar. 7545. What are the totals, please? And the ranges? 22. So when you divide that by 2, you get an 11. So the 22, the raw scores then will suggest outstanding. Let us talk about the singer. Can we get marks for the singer? Yes, please. 3554. Joel. 4445. 5444. Paul is the same thing. 5444. Omar is the same thing. What are the raw scores?
This is not a punitive exercise.
This is
Mainly 17?
a pure
Okay,
exercise.
so
This is
with
not
that raw score,
a
we are saying that singer was good in the good band. Everybody's understanding me so far? Everybody on the same page? Can we get 3 persons, please, for the ensemble because of time? 8655. Another 8655. One more. 8545. What are the raws? The raw scores. 8545. 8555. Yeah. $23. Okay, so basically outstanding band. Is everybody okay? We okay so far? Can I move on? No. When it comes to the SBA, there are certain documents that are supposed to be submitted. You're going to need the sample generated by CXC's portal. So when you put in the marks into the ORS, then a generated sheet would automatically come. You need to submit that. You need, yes, please. Okay, so when you go onto the CXC portal. Okay, yeah, in some schools, well, then you will give your scores to the head of department, and then he or she will either put them in or the deputy will put them in, and then they will get back a sheet, but you have to get back a sample so that we would know who we're coming to listen to. You also need to submit the moderation of SBA form. Those are on the CXC's website. There is a possibility that we can always send out an email to have those documents in there so that nobody misses a document. The records of mark sheet. Now, since COVID, we have been required to get the marks for every student, whether they're being moderated or not. And it's for what we call an auditing process. And one thing that we've realized in the audit, not in music, not even in Barbados, but one thing that was noted was when you did the auditing, you realized that there were a number of errors that teachers used to make. So people would not submit, and it happened in another subject. People did not submit SBAs, but marks were entered. High ones too. And then even for some of those SBAs that were entered or that were submitted, the quality when they were remarked was so low that it was a big jump between what the teacher had entered and what the moderator found. So the audit, that further justified the need for the auditing process. So we actually need the record of marks that you would have submitted. We also need all of them because we need all of the samples because we have to not necessarily remark them, but look through them. That's what we're supposed to do, look at them.
In addition to that, Philip, what you need the record of marks for everybody, in case your SBA marks differs from the moderators, then a second sample has to be pulled. So let's say you mark your SBA projects and you give let's say this guy out of 30, you give him 22, and you give the next man 25, I think, and you have 10 candidates. And then Dave goes into mark, and his marks vary a lot. And he puts it in the app. The app says it's not acceptable. So then he has to pull a sample to be moderated. Not the sample that you pull, but he has to pull, or sometimes it's a second sample that has to be pulled. Right? So the marks have to be in for every single candidate. Thanks.
Being devil's advocate, I just want to know. Leave me alone. If I mark my student low and their mark is like 12 out of 30. It's still 30, right? But the SB, the moderator marks it and it's actually like somewhere around 22, 23. Can the moderator, I understand what Pernell said about having to do a new sample. What is the role of the moderator if I have marked too hard per se?
And then we use ours.
Does any feedback comes back to
Yep.
the teacher?
Yep.
Okay.
There's a moderator's report that we would think, but in the moderator's report, there are little boxes that we have to check off, like if the teacher was too harsh, I can't remember the exact words, but were you too lenient? Were you too hard? Was it satisfactory? Something along those lines, right? So we have to tick off those as well. So if in your case where you get a student 12 and we come and get 22, like I can't even say, all right, if it was that my mark was like 14, I would still say satisfactory because it's within that ballpark. But within that 10 mark gap, I gotta mark you harsh or whatever the word is that they have there. And then we will use our marks. Yes, correct. And we will talk to you about that so that it does not repeat itself the following year. Joel.
I wouldn't say that, but I'd say I've asked teachers already to adjust their marks if the portal is still open, right? Because they're there when the child is playing and then marking, right? So I've done that already. Because sometimes like the space between when they mark and when I mark, the student has improved a lot and things like that. A lot of things can happen at that time. So if the portal is still open, I say, listen, I feel this right here.
Okay, in our hypothetical situation we have here, this morning the guys would have performed original song. To be honest, I was not aware that original songs could have been used, in this case, ensemble, as part of the exam. I'm going to also ask if an original song can be used as a solo piece. Help me out here.
Okay, so an ensemble piece, an original is fine. An arrangement is fine. If we are real, let's say for example that it was a clarinet and a trombone and a flute. Weird combination, but hey, it could work. Then if you're going to play a particular song, you still got to arrange it for them three instruments, which is still going to be some form of composition. So the ensemble piece can be original. The solo piece, however, cannot. Because in times gone by, I know CXC has been fighting for it, and we always found a way not to do it. So they had this thing called a music something form where you were supposed to kind of, I can't remember what it is a form where you were supposed to write out the number of pieces that they had studied, because it was supposed to be, when we used to do the performance profile, it used to be an accumulation of 8 to 10 pieces over the time frame that you were supposed to have studied and played, right? So we never kept a track of that. It was supposed to keep track of that so that you don't come back and play the same piece that you played or that you have marked on before, that you come back and play it again. So the solo pieces must be stuff that already published, stuff that already out there. The ensemble piece, however, could be original, it could be an arrangement of a song that exists, etc.
When you mentioned arrangement just now, you also triggered the other aspect of the examination where you have to do a composition, which would be the original and an arrangement. Can the arrangement?
No.
What are you asking?
Can the arrangement be used for the arrangement in the exam part?
No. Can the arrangement be an arrangement of the student's original song?
No.
I guess making sure we have all these bases covered.
Correct. Everything, every aspect must be different, must have some sort of difference in it. Any other questions? All right. And music scores were applicable because we understand that if you doing a spool song, you may not give us a score. Just saying, we're ever applicable.
This thing of having to produce a lead sheet, a score to the examiners, right? Do you have, I think it's somewhere in there, but quite often when we have our students performing our local pieces, they usually know lead sheets, no scores available. How acceptable is that?
For me, the purpose of the lead sheet, especially in the practical exam, is for the purpose of the viva voce, which I'm going to get to a little later. And I'm gonna talk about that a little later and what I have done when you have not produced a lead sheet, right? So I'm gonna leave that question for a little later on. Any other questions? Because this is the end of the SBA part of it. End of the SBA. Beautiful, beautiful. No, so this is the practical exam. Once again, you have a solo piece, but it must not be the same as one that you've been tested on before. You have the same scale, blah, blah, blah. The only difference now is that you're having a viva voce and the composition and arrangement portfolio presentation. All right, so those are the things that we're going to have in there. Now, I am not going to go through all the rudiments of the rubric of the performance exam as it relates to the solo piece and the scale and arpeggio, simply because we did that earlier. However, I want to experiment with you on one thing. I have a drummer. I want all of us to mark this, please. He's going to do 2 rudiments for me. Now, pretend that he is a drumming student because we were talking about creating a standard for drummers, right? So we then need to make sure that we know how to mark drummers. So I want you to tell me, I'm going to ask Christian to play 2 rudiments for me, just for the purpose of this exercise. And I want you to tell me, what would you give him for your score? This is the practical exam. He has already played his solo piece on the drums. He is now doing rudiments. So instead of the scale and arpeggio, he's doing rudiments. I would like you to play some flams for me, please. Thank you. I would like you to play a single paradiddle. Thank you. I want you to tell me how you would mark it, please. Kindly give a mark. No, this is out of 5 from before. Can we get some thoughts, please? Philip, can you write these thoughts for me, please? This is the rudiments. Just write the numbers that they call for me, please. And calculate, yeah, in the marks. Can I get 3 persons? You, Lily, you want to say something? But I can let you start first. You can mark out of 5 and 5 and then give an average. That's how you can do that. I find that I do that and I get a truer sense of the mark as opposed to make an assumption. You have a thought? You have a thought?
Type of flam matter, like.
Well, good question.
Yeah.
Just ask for the basic flam.
All.
Are you not talking about the flam accent or other kind of thing?
Mr. Jackman, question for me.
Somebody
Mr.
asked me.
Jackman. Here by you.
Oh,
right. So just to be clear, you're doing 2 drum rudiments as opposed to 1 scale and arpeggio.
No, we may ask 3 rudiments because I might not let it go on as long as. but just for the
Okay.
sake of this exercise right here. And time.
Okay, so how then do we assess that if we ask for more than one, let's say more
Mark
than
each
two?
out of 5 and then find the average.
Mark each out of 5 and then find the average.
Correct.
Okay, so if they do 5, you do 5 5s and then
And then average. Absolutely.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Thoughts? Okay, so he has 5 for the first one, as in the flam, and then 2.5 for the paradiddle.
Yeah, 5 for the first one
5 for the first one,
and a 1 for the second.
and a 1 for the second. We didn't get it. I ain't get it. I want one more person. 5 and a 2. So when you find the average, what number are we up to? 3 point something. Okay. All right. So we have him then in the competent area. But why did you all give such a low mark for the second one? It's interesting because you all gave 5 for the first, but very low for the next. Thank you. Okay, good. So I asked for a paradiddle.
He asked for a single paradiddle and he played single strokes. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Single strokes is just left, right down the road. Single paradiddle is 1 single, 1 double. Left, right, left, right, left, right. Well, he did half the single paradiddle, which is the singles. So I can't give you 2 points for it because if you'd have put in a little diddle at the beginning or something like that, I would give you 2. But the mere fact you went all playing single strokes, I can't give you my 2.5.
Now here we do 2.5 because he give one to start left, one to start right. I'm not drummer, so help me here, right?
He play halfway. So
Right.
right.
So no, if the man play half, it can't give 1, it will give half. That's why I gave him 2 points. No, I'm if he plays half because and depending on how often he plays it, the single's gonna come more than once. So if he really just no, I'm serious. I'm being serious.
Joel, if it's left, right, left. If it's left, right, and right, left, right. Right? If you play the left, it means for every time you miss that left, but this is not a punitive exercise. You see, listen, this is not a punitive exercise.
Wait, so that we didn't get one?
Huh?
So you're saying that's when he should get one or when he didn't get you one?
No. This is what I am saying.
Okay, sir.
Listen, the young man made it a 10. We are Jeremiah, who you name? Christian, we are proud of you. We are proud of you. But the attempt, the young man gets 1. It might but 2. It's limited. He has proven limited knowledge of the paradiddle.
I want to throw a spoke in the wheel. This is just being devil's advocate. And the drummers could verify or not. Did he play incorrectly? Did he play it correctly? Based on the fact that there was no tempo established. Should we be using a metronome if we're going to be dealing with, well, all instruments, period? Is that a standard that we need to enter into the conversation, that a metronome is a part of the examination? Because easily we could say the man played as a paradiddle based on if the tempo, hold on, man. I be a devil's advocate, hear me? And also, for the examiner who can't see, suppose somebody is really competent, who's not this, but they're very fast down here. You can't see if the man do right, left, right, whatever. You get with me? I be a devil's advocate. I be ridiculous. I just extended the conversation.
Me personally, as a drummer, because as we spoke yesterday, foundation, intermediate, advanced, obviously will depend too on your ability to play at various tempos, right? So for me, I believe that a tempo range should be set, right? Even if you're playing it to a metronome, but that's me, because it's me, all my drummers, if they come to me, do that. But I will make this point as well, right? Many of you may not play drums, but as I said to Dave, or Ken knows it well, you can play rudiments, right? So like I was telling Laura just now, there's a way that you can play single strokes and make it sound like a paradiddle, right? And you don't even know that it is a paradiddle, right? Where the accent falls. So we look at the sticking, but is come down to accents as well. Because if I turn around the same paradiddle, it could be a 6-stroke roll, right? But that's being technical, right? So again, based on the level, because that's what I was asking. With the flam, for me, you gotta be able to play the flam both ways. So by both, if you flamming starting with the right hand, you gotta show me starting with the left, because it's independence, right? It's the same thing with single strokes. If I listen to single strokes, I tell people think machine gun. Da, 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 da. That's how singles the sound, right? But you can also play doubles, right, to sound almost like singles, depending on how you play. So again, sticking, because if you're telling me 120 with a paradiddle, right, 120 with a paradiddle could be 16th notes, 32nd notes at 60 BPMs. So it could get weird with those things. But for me, that's why I said to know what we were entering him as foundation, intermediate, advanced, I would take certain things into consideration. So I need to know what we put in here, foundation, where he would get the marks for the flam, which is, I would give him the 5 because he did execute a flam, right? For the paradiddle, he technically played half of it according to, because it's really right, left, right, right. But he played right, left, right. You understand? He would get part there for attempting to start it, right? But I would probably give him about a 2, right? Intermediate, it would drop.
Is it a paradiddle if you didn't complete the correct sequence of?
Or if you didn't
discuss.
All right, let me ask another question then. If somebody plays a C major scale, but they play an A flat, did he complete the scale?
So let me cross you. Not just play A flat. They play C, D, E flat, E, F, F sharp, G, B, C.
All right, cool.
They play.
Yeah. So I believe, for me personally, and as a junior man, I always go under a senior man or whatever, right? Yeah. So I believe, I mean, there's a certain time where you have to tell yourself, nah, this ain't it, right? There's a certain time, but as my man Darren, like, we're not being punitive. So we are trying to award marks as best as we can. But the good thing is today we are going to be actually having a demonstration where everybody will have an idea of at least what we are doing at the foundation level. Mr. Jackman, Lori Worrell, Chad Graves, myself, and Petra, we happily sat and we devised a strategy that should make everybody's life easier when the time comes.
Thanks for that. I appreciated that. That was the key point I wanted to make. You're not penalizing anyone. I know that's the mindset that we really want to squash. But if I ask for A minor, C major, and I didn't get it, I like you, but you can't get what you ain't pay for. So that's one.
You have a question?
If I can, Marty, give it the boy.
In terms of playing the grooves, do the student pick the grooves, or you pick them for them?
We will give you a set of grooves, work on them, because then we will ask about any of them. But that I will share as well a little later on. I like I gotta hurry up because everybody getting ahead of me.
I have a quick comment, Dave.
Yeah.
We're going back a little bit at the beginning when we were doing a marking where we said it's based upon you with the marketing style as the student, as foundation, intermediate, moderate, something like that. When you said based upon the piece that we was given,
Mhm.
So once we start, that person should maintaining that band straight through, yes?
Mhm.
So for example, oh goodness, the drummer.
The other one, because it's not the same drummer.
Right, in terms of the guy that did the original piece, and we marked him as he submitted his piece was at intermediate.
Mhm.
But yet when he came and do a foundational rudiments or whatever,
Mhm.
so which means his marks will even be even further depleted then. That's what I'm trying to
Pretty
figure
much.
out. Just checking. Right.
We're going to move on to this part. Standards. Now, I have considered the fact, don't worry about that. I have considered the fact that annually we have the same complaints about what to do with drummers, what to do with vocalists, and even to some degree, but less over the past couple of years, what to do with panis. And we figured then that let us try to create a standard here in Barbados, whether it is working for CXC or not, or whether we have gone ahead and created something for CXC or not, is not my issue. I think that if we are going to create a standard here in Barbados, let's do that. Let us examine that, and it will be developmental for the children. As a result, I would have done some consulting. As it relates to the drummers, you heard Farrakhan mention it earlier. I consulted with Petra himself, Chad, and Lori. As it relates to the vocalists, I would have consulted with one of my colleagues in Trinidad. She's the curriculum officer there, Michelle Dorich, and our own Evelyn McLean. So we would like to share these with you in in a PDF format, but for the time being, so that you can start doing whatever you need to do. If you wish to take a picture of the stuff that we are thinking of, then that is absolutely no problem. You could take a Photoshop. But this part here is just general. We were talking about the resources for the general standards for all the instruments. Apparently, they say benchmark it against ABRSM and Trinity. You will find that for the levels of competence in the syllabus 2020, you will find that on page 42 for recorder, pan, and voice. just those three. And then exemplar material for performance, you will find that in the appendix 5 on page 79 of the syllabus, and that is only for voice and recorder. However, this is where we come to talk now about drumming. Now, we recognize the three levels, and after conversation, we said for foundation, let us be specific. The rudiments that we will test in isolation. So just like how I asked for the paradiddle just now, or the flam, we're going to ask those in isolation. So you talking about single stroke roll, double stroke roll, single paradiddle, flam tap, and rough drag. Metronome marking, semi-quiver, 65 to 80. We may talk about grooves as well. So the grooves to learn with the ability to at least crash on the downbeat. Talk about the one drop. We talk about basic soca, basic rock, waltz, and basic swing. And we figure that that should be sufficient for foundation drummers. And I'll tell you what exactly we want to do a little later.
While persons are taking their photos and what's not there, my question as relates to, I know our go-to after secondary school is Barbados Community College as it relates to music.
Mhm.
So with these SBAs and standardizations, I don't know if that's for you or should I ask when we're just come, but I can put it out in the open floor nonetheless. With the auditions for BCC, will this?
Oh, you just don't trouble the cable, right?
Right. So my question is again, will these standards be equivalent or a part of auditions for
Well,
BCC?
when the drummers spoke, they spoke about their experiences and what they learned to go in, and how they right when their whole experience during college and stuff like that. So they were talking about certain styles that might be worthwhile to know to get in, and that's what we have included here. Mhm.
Hello. Right. The same thing goes as it relates to skills.
Mhm.
with the pan and just saxophone, the same way you may go to 12 or whatever, the same thing will apply here. So where we're talking about if the person should be able to go up on Pernell would have mentioned it that we as the educators, teachers, whatever, should be advising and guiding our students accordingly that it should go up, ascending and descending. But at the same time, ascending and descending to what level? To the full range of the instrument, to the 12 or just the 1 octave versus 2 octave type of thing.
We benchmarking that against what ABRSM and Trinity would say, just because that's what the
You
syllabus said.
mentioned 2 things that does not incorporate the steel pan. So that's my asking you.
Right,
again.
so that's why we said, when Pernell spoke about that earlier, when we talked about getting a couple of UPAN players together, so that just like how I had a conversation with the drummers and the vocalists, we're gonna have that conversation with the panists very, very shortly, right? So that we could create something more, because I know that sometimes people also benchmark based on the exams that happen in Trinidad. You know, they have their graded exams and stuff like that down there. But we still want to have something that works in our context here.
Yeah, guys. So just briefly, we're going to go through a couple rudiments. As you can see, they're here on the board, and we're just going to do a short thing so you have an idea of what is going on. So the first and most basic thing is called the single stroke rule. So once with each hand. So right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand. Easy, no accents, nothing like that. Single stroke roll, plain right and left hand. Now, when it comes to assessing technique, there are certain things we will look for. So we'll look for hand positioning, all right, how they're playing, and when it comes to tone, the sound that it makes here. So if I'm doing this, then would that be good technique in your opinion? No, it wouldn't be good technique. Right. So those are the little things that we look for when we are talking about technique. So when you're in your schools and you're practicing, you look at the hand position, and all of this is going to come out later, right? So single stroke, right hand, left hand. Now, as it relates to the metronome marking, there's a metronome marking here, which tells me that foundation is between 65 and 80. Now, this should really be 65 to 80 crotchets, but we are playing in semiquavers, right? So I have next to me my trusty metronome, and this is at 80. Okay, this is at 80. However, I just have a quaver subdivision to make it easier. And that's because sometimes to feel in between this can seem like an eternity. Feeling in between this can seem like forever. So I have a quaver subdivision, not accented. So you can hear the little soft one in between, right? Yeah. So the single stroke in semiquavers at 80 BPM. And I believe that the demonstration of that and when you end would be at the discretion of the examiner. I believe about 4 bars should be able to cover it, but a man might stop you after 2 bars. He may stop you after 3. He may ask you to go on a little longer, right? So Mr. Jackman, do you have any specific length of bars? Exactly, right. So when the examiner feel like telling you stop, that's it, all right? Right, so the next one is the double stroke. Now I want Marilyn. So Marilyn, the single stroke means 1 stroke with each hand. So 1 stroke with the right hand, 1 stroke with the left hand. If you were to take a guess, the double stroke would be 2 what? 2 strokes with each hand, correct. So 2 strokes with each hand is your double stroke. Again, using the same 80, which is the upper end of the foundation. Simple. No accents, nothing is louder than the other, all of them on an even playing field. All right? Now, I know sometimes you may be hearing something, and that's to get real technical by the time you get to advanced. So things like tuning of the drum and all of that, they will play a part. But don't worry about that, right? We just here to make sure that the fellas and ladies could do what they have to do, right? So that's the double stroke. Now let's move on to the paradiddle. Now I see here Mr. Jackman has the single paradiddle, and he was very specific because there are others. And to break down the paradiddle, I want you to remember two things: the para and the diddle. Everybody tell me the para and the diddle. Again, the para and the diddle. Good. So para, diddle. And it's basically a combination of the single strokes and double strokes. So the para is a pair of single strokes. So para. Okay? Para. And the diddle is one double stroke. Diddle. So para, diddle. Yeah? Para, diddle. And we're going to delve a little further into why we break it down like that a little later on. So for the paradiddle is your first alternating exercise basically. Now the accents are on the downbeat. So to execute one paradiddle, paradiddle. Then the other one would start with your left hand. So you accent the first of the single strokes each time. So paradiddle, 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 paradiddle. So paradiddle, 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 paradiddle. All right. So let's run that to speed. Paradiddle, 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 paradiddle. And that's the way that works. All right. That's the way that works. So let's move on. The flam tap. Now, earlier, Mr. Jackman asked the candidate to play flams, and the candidate played flams, but they did. All right, and that's a flam. So basically, you start with one hand higher than the other, and you try to get them down. Almost at the same time. So one hand is so let's say this is going to be your lead hand, right? And you're going to get this in your document. Let's say this is your lead hand. This is the hand that you want to hit the drum with hard, right? This is the hand. This hand here, so you can start from down here and get here before this one. So now what we have decided, and the question, actually the statement came up when Mr. Graves mentioned it, was that the candidate played the flams, but he would like to see the independence, because a flam, it is necessary for you to be able to play the flam with the left hand as the lead hand, and it is also necessary with the right hand as the lead hand. Right? So there are two ways. So it's the same flam, but the position. And that's why we've decided that we would use the flam tap. The flam tap is a basic rudiment which includes the flam and then a tap, and then a flam and then a tap. So you would see left hand, I'm starting with left hand as the lead hand. So I'm going to come here, flam, and then tap with that same left hand, which is the lead hand. And then I'm going to change that around. And my right hand is the lead hand now. So I go flam and then tap. So flam, tap, 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 flam, tap. Yeah? Now everybody got hands and tables. Let me try it. Quick. So everybody get your left hand a little higher than your right hand. Yeah? And we're going to try this thing. So I just want you to give me a flam. Give me a flam. After 4, give me one flam. 2, 3, 4. Flam. 2, 3. Again. Flam. 2, 3. Again. Flam. Good. Now this is what we're going to do. We're going to add an additional tap. So flam, tap. So flam, left hand is going to lead, come down, and then you're going to tap that left hand. So flam, tap. Again, let's try it. Flam, tap. One more time. Flam, tap. Once again. Flam, tap. Good. So you got the idea. Now from there, let's try it the other way. So your right hand is now leading. Your right hand is the hand that can hit hard. So the left hand will land first, right? So let's try it. 3, 4. So flam, tap. Again, flam, tap. One more time. Flam, tap. Good. And all of this stuff is going to come out. And I just want to put here. We know everybody don't have drummers and what's not, but you will have as much information, and the people who are playing drums are willing to help. Just reach out. I've already spoken to Mr. Eastman, and Chad and Dave, Petrol, Lori. We are all on board with helping everybody to get this thing together. So there's that. And the last one we're looking at is the rough, and the rough is also called a drag, all right? And it's basically about letting the stick bounce on the drum. All right. And the thing about this, again, you're doing it with both hands. So your left hand is your lead hand. So if your left hand is your lead hand, then this is the hand that is going to bounce on the drum first. So. Right. And we're going to get a little more technical with that. So again, it's about being able to alternate. Yes, Joel? Yes, well, yes. So the thing about it is when they come to us, we have to do our best to make sure that at the foundation level, they can at least play in isolation. So technique is important from ball one. Technique is important from ball one. Yeah. And again, so with your drag, you have your lead hand, and then you change your lead hand. So yeah. Yes. These are going to come to metronomes as well. So the flam tap, we are expecting will actually be played in quavers as opposed to semi-quavers at this stage. So if we are at 80, yeah, as it relates to the drags, crotchets. Yeah, but by the time you get the official document, all of that will be stipulated, and we won't have that issue. Now, I'm not gonna touch on the grooves today, but I'm going to demonstrate for you why the breakdown of the wait. Pause. Do I have any other questions? Yeah, Joel. Yes, so Mr. Eastman, we are recording today. So just briefly, let me get to the double paradiddle now. Now, when we talk about the double paradiddle, which is, can you pull up the intermediate for me, please? So basically, it is always stepping up, stepping up, stepping up, stepping up. Everything is incremental. Yeah. So after, sweet. So here you can see we have some additions. So in addition to the flam tap, we now have what we call the flam accent, and in addition to the single paradiddle, we have the double paradiddle. Okay. Now for the double paradiddle, and this is why we talked about the separation earlier. Excuse me. We divide it into the what and the what, the what and the what, the para and the diddle. So the double paradiddle is now going to be executed as para-paradiddle. Everybody got that? Para-paradiddle. That's the way the double paradiddle works. Okay, the para-paradiddle. So instead of 2 single strokes, you will have 4 single strokes, or 2 pairs of single strokes. So para, and then a diddle. And if I play the diddle and I ended with my right hand, then the next double paradiddle must start with my left hand. Paradiddle. So paradiddle, 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 right? So if you were to do that to time, that would be the beginning of some semblance of a displacement. So paradiddle, 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 that's 80. So it's 80 crochets. But as I said earlier, I added the quaver subdivision because sometimes the space between quarters could seem like forever, right? And the men that does practice with metronomes know what I'm talking about. When you're practicing at like 60 and thing, the space between the take, you'll be scrambling sometimes, right? So by the time you reach an advanced stage, you are able to handle things a little better. But as a beginner, you want to give them all the help that they can. Yes. At the 85 to 99, yeah. Yeah, but that's 99. but you don't need to play at 99. You got 85. Yeah, no, but the student, you got between 85, you got between 85 and 99. You got a whole range. Yes. Yeah. So yeah. So yeah. So it's something that we thought about, and again, it's not set in stone. So we listening to your feedback and stuff. So Amasa, you feel that 99, go Berkey, is problems. That is all right. You got from 85 to come up. And the other thing is this. The other thing is this. The students would be encouraged. And if they want to go ahead and push their tempo and push themselves, then you facilitate that, right? You facilitate that. If they can handle it at 85, they handle it at 85. If they can handle it at 90 and they are comfortable doing it at 90, they let them do it at the 90, right? So, yes. Yes. Right. And this is where the application of some of these rudiments are going to be used. Now, in foundation, we talked about doing them in isolation, which means they will just sit with the drum and they'll be asked to perform these rudiments, execute these rudiments. At the intermediate level, where we add these grooves as well, we are looking for them to be able to use these things in a groove. So you're playing a groove and at least a drum fill or so at the end of 4 bars or something, is it demonstrating the single stroke, something demonstrating the double stroke, something demonstrating the paradiddle. What we are proposing as well is that we create a few studies that would have these things written, notated, right? So everybody would have an even playing field when it comes to that. We are not going to stifle the creativity of any candidate, but at least at the least, if everything is guided by you, they would still be able to participate at an intermediate level with what they've been given, right? And they'll be able to happen things will be able to happen from there. Now, the final thing that I want to touch on, and this is a something I'm very passionate about. When it comes to drums, we know that not every school has keyboardists, bass players, this, that, next, third. But these grooves need to be played, and we would like to play them with some accompaniment. So what the team has decided is that we are going to volunteer ourselves to sit and build accompaniment tracks for, right? So you will have one with the drum and you will have one without, which is something that I got when I did Trinity. We had a drum track and a drumless track, right? Well, a track with drums and a track without. So you were able to play along and practice and stuff. And we don't see, I know a lot of people don't see drums as a lead instrument, but there are drummers who lead bands. There are, right? And I also saw something on television one time where a child was playing and he went and he played a groove. He went and he played a song, but it was just him playing the drums. And after about 20 seconds of him just playing this groove, it got monotonous, as some people would think. And also it helps when it comes to your, what we call the pocketing and being able to play along with others. And that's why we're actually going to be doing it live so that the drummers get a feel and the and are able to play with some authenticity when it comes to the genres. Yeah. So that is it in a nutshell. A thought also came to me: brushes and mallets. We have not put anything in here specifically as yet for brushes and mallets. However, we are of the assumption, that a man that got brushes and mallets is a man that actually wants to play drums. And a lot of these things, if you have an advanced guy that wants to do it, as Mr. Jackman likes to say, it would be part of the pedagogy, but we wouldn't push it as hard. Yeah. So yes. Yes, I also thought about that this morning, and that is something that we need to discuss as well. Somebody that wants to play conga drums and percussion right outside of the steel pan, because I know the steel pan men going to get organized, understand his right. So that is about it for now. You can look for this stuff anywhere around December-ish once we get the time, Mr. Eastman, once we get the time. So that's it from me. Any questions? No questions. That means my lesson was nice. I like it when nobody go ask me nothing. All right. Thank you very much for your time, guys.
Okay, just before we go any further, and I am sorry that I have taken up your whole morning. I hope that it was fruitful nonetheless. But we just want to make sure that there is some level of clarity before we bring out. You heard that Farrakhan said that we're looking to produce something for you so that you can use in your respective schools. However, until that is actually done, this is why this happened this morning. All right. Chad is going to briefly demonstrate the rudiments within a particular groove. I guess he can say which groove he's going to do and what rudiments he's going to include in there. Until they get themselves sorted out, I just want to go back to the Viva briefly. Remember that Viva really stands for, with the living voice. In other words, your Viva Voce is pretty much an oral examination. So when we ask you questions, when we ask the students questions about the piece that they have presented, we're going to be asking about the theoretical questions about it or analytical questions. Now, questions like, for example, the key of the piece. What is the key of the piece? What is the form of the piece? The nationality of the composer, and what does the breath marks mean, those little ticks, etc. What do those things mean? We're going to be asking those kind of questions. For persons who do not submit a score, I have been asking analytical questions. For example, talking about the form, talking about the texture of the piece that you performed, and not necessarily how it was recorded, but how you performed it, and certain things around that nature. So those are the kind of questions that we tend to ask in the Viva. And I would encourage that you do that even in your own classes, because the benefits are it gives the students a chance to express themselves orally. We heard some people mention yesterday that there's some children who have a hard time writing. Well, no, this is their chance to be expressive. I mean, it's 4 marks, yeah, but still. That 4 marks really important, right? It can help put things into perspective as it relates to analysis. And then furthermore, it can give food for thought when composing and arranging. So you can use those as teachable moments. All right. You ready?
Yeah. All right, good morning still. Just a couple of things quickly. For I can touch on basically all the rudiments. As I was explaining to Laura too, depending on the level, there's some things that you may have to pay attention to. So as I was telling her, when Farkan was explaining the single stroke, as he did just now, which is right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, you can hear the consistency between each stroke. But it may come a case where when the tempo gets a little faster, right? And you may hear this, where it now sounds like one hand leading a little more than the other hand. So those are some of the things that I guess we will put inside of the document for you all to focus on. But as it pertains to playing the grooves and incorporating some of the fills, believe it or not, some of the music that we play actually uses some of these same rudiments. So as I was telling them, the rough, we start spooge music that way. That's the intro to spooge music, right? So that's the break. That's the same rough that Farrakhan was talking about, right? But again, if you're hearing it, if you're watching my hands, I tend to play alternating. Some people would do it with the one hand, right? Which may be a little difficult depending on how the drum set up. But if you're listening, right? But if I'm playing it correctly, that's the start for the spooge, by alternate between the two. But as it pertains now to the actual grooves, so some of the things to check for when they're playing the grooves is, again, when it comes to the technique. So if you're doing the reggae, I like to call it the catch. Well, that's what the fellas in Jamaica just call it. So catch is basically how the kick and the snare come down on the downbeat. But what you may listen for sometimes is that it might sound like a flam, right? Rather than, you get what I'm saying? So if I play a one drop, right? You hear that catch. I know. Hear that here, right? And for Jamaicans, that's the biggest thing when it comes to reggae. If that kick and snare landing on the downbeat, and you could clearly hear for technique. So that sweet spot on the snare sound big. If I move around the stick, you can hear the difference there, right? So compared to when you're looking at the technical stuff, if I had to mark probably an intermediate drummer, I'd be checking at least for what I know to you about. For somebody that probably no learning, that's still trying to develop their sound on the instrument, that's something that as long as I could see that they're at least playing, right? I ain't worrying about the sound or how the snare and kick landing. At least they could show me 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, right? But if I really enter it, right? So that is how I want to hear the snare, right? Same thing for soca. If you're playing a soca groove.
For reggae, before we move to soca, in terms of performance, could you speak to how reggae is played on the backbeat as opposed to directly on the?
So you mean like
the actual performance, the performance of it? This outside the CXC, but just for general knowledge, how they actually play on the backbeat.
All right, so there's some genres, well, and this from me talking to some of the reggae drummers too, because things that they pay attention to is hi-hat. If the hi-hat swinging straight, So could demonstrate a few. So for me, there's a guy named Kurt Bennett that I just chat between him and a guy named Raption that just play with Third World. Like them is the two guys that majority of all the reggae stuff that you hearing now, them is the drummers. But some of the stuff that they do, right? That's triplets on the hi-hat, right? If I swinging it, right? That's the swing there now. But the Lovers Rock with the Barbie. Boom, 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 boom. Driver. Don't. You got the, that's another reggae. There's the steppers, which is the kick, right? Steppers there, ska. So ska, no, ska is a little more technical because it's more hi-hat. A guy named Desi Jones, you could probably check that's the guy that really know it. But I just gave you some names in case students want to know. You can check them on YouTube. Desi Jones, actually he has some material on YouTube. These are the reggae guys, Kurt Bennett and Raption from Third World. I can't remember Raption real name now. But those are the three that you can really check. Calypso, that's something that a lot of people don't pay attention to. Calypso and the soca. So again, basic. If I know learning, right? At least I can hear the same single strokes. That's what I tell you. Some of these grooves is actually rudiments, right? As the same singles that Farrakhan was talking about. You got a question, Joel?
Just so you said Calypso, right? It's Kaiso, right?
Right. I was about to ask if that is Kaiso.
That's for me, Kaiso.
Kaiso.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
One of the things as a more advanced, so more advanced now we're listening now to how this hi-hat song. Right?
Yeah. My next question is what you're doing is called floating.
Floating
with your feet,
with
the
feet.
opening hi-hat.
That's the opening. So one on, so it opening on the on of the downbeat. So one on or two on.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So it opening. That's how you open it. But again, when you get to, that's what you will see there on the sheet that Dave had. That's where we only put certain grooves for foundation. Because like intermediate, then those sort of stuff you can then start to pay attention to. But basic 3/4 that everybody should be able to play. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? 3/4. The 4/4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. I mean, and there are many variations to this, right? So like when I teaching all of my students, I always tell them, believe it or not, Michael Jackson got one of the biggest tunes for this year. Dung 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 bump 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 bump. That's all our groove is, you know, technically speaking. But if you want to be more advanced, Farrakhan will tell you they got some stuff that you could do. So again, right? 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2. Hi-hat change, right? So again, different rules depending on the entry level of the student. So if I had to play what he's saying now, if I had to play one of these rules and demonstrate now a rule, say for example the same single stroke. So 4/4 groove. 1, 2, 3, singles coming up now. 4, single strokes. Round the kick. You can do it on your snare to 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a single. If you want to do the double, 2, 3, 4. Right? Parallel. Same parallel within the contents of the groove. But just to show that you can apply it rather than just playing it on the snare itself.
Yeah, and allow me here, Chad, and the creativity of it, you put these same drum rudiments, just put them on different parts of the drum kit, let them practice doing that. So if you can just get like a paradiddle with some toms and snare or something there, Chad.
Cool. Same paradiddle.
Right. So that's the stuff that you wanted. That's the stuff that you
reggae
wanted.
man the reggae man does flam a lot too. So when you hear the reggae, right? As a flam.
Can we get one quickly with the double stroke between the kick and the hands, please?
Kick
in
and
any
one.
groove, yeah. So let's do a soca groove with the
soca?
kick. Yeah.
Right? That's basically double stroke. Well, between kick and that's the same thing as same thing. All right, so that is it there, guys.